Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to the final week of what's been another challenging term, which brings me straight on to this week's theme, challenge. Now we always deal with definitions first, and consistent is the idea of overcoming something difficult. You can challenge ideas or conventions rather than just taking the easy route and accepting the status quo. It can be undertaking a difficult task. Another common theme that regularly crops up is the idea that through overcoming challenges, we find opportunities for personal growth. Sounds good, and it isn't difficult to find stories about individuals who've overcome the greatest challenges to draw inspiration. I was certainly inspired by Ed Jackson, who spoke at our most recent sports dinner, a young sportsman who had the rugby world at his feet before he suffered a serious spinal injury when diving into a swimming pool on holiday. Rather than feeling sorry for himself, he responded to this most challenging of circumstance and has gone on to achieve great things. He chose to ignore the medical diagnosis and learned to walk again. He chooses to take on physical challenges, such as climbing the height of Everest on his own stairs, all whilst raising thousands of pounds for charity and inspiring others who face similar adversity. I recently read a book about Cato the Younger, a Roman emperor who was known as Rome's Iron Man for his iron will. He came to power in an empire obsessed with status, decadence, control, and demonstrations of power. In contrast to the many who came before and after, Cato fought against corruption and dedicated his life to returning Rome to its core values. It wasn't so much that he did anything special. He just made consistently good choices. He was the first to work each morning, often the last to leave, and seemed to relish saying no to state-funded luxuries or handouts that the position of emperor had always afforded. He chose to live a simple life, actively resisting the challenge of temptation and inoculating himself from the need for comforts and externals. He was challenged at every step along the way. His choices made him many enemies, as those around him almost felt shamed by the standards that he set. I'm sure, like you, I don't need to look that far into history to find inspiration. A year ago, just before the first lockdown, my mum lost a long battle with cancer. After 40 years of marriage, my dad inevitably struggled in the face of that challenge. The way he got through it was by focusing on making good choices every day. He abstained from drinking, realising that this wouldn't help his emotional state. He found routine in exercising and eating well each day, and set about planning his own challenging adventure. As soon as he was able, last summer, he travelled to the south of France and went on a solo pilgrimage, the Camino de Santiago, also known as the Way, which is essentially a 1,000-kilometre walk through the Pyrenees from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in southern France to Santiago in northern Spain. He went on to Finisterre on the Spanish coast and spread Mum's ashes. To him, this represented the final journey with his wife. Challenge can be something that we seek out, but it doesn't have to be. I believe that the greatest challenge we're all called to is simply making consistently good choices in our own lives, regardless of external circumstances. There's absolutely no doubt that the last 12 months has presented you all with unique challenges, but you still retain the freedom to choose. It can be easier to stay in bed than to get up early and start the day well. It's easier to drift through lessons, staying quiet and shrink into the background, rather than asking difficult questions and standing out. When others are being unkind, it can be easier to follow the crowd and do nothing, and is far more challenging to speak up and do what you know is right. Do you stick to what you know and do what everyone else is doing in the Forder programme? Or do you make choices that you know will present challenges, especially when the programme demands that you commit to them for a sustained period of time? At the end of the day, do we skip out on practices and rehearsals, or do we not only stay and train, but bring a level of energy and enthusiasm that's an inspiration to others? Regardless of external circumstances and the challenges that you face, you always retain the freedom to choose. Each of these choices is small when viewed in isolation, but they act as a vote for the type of person that you want to be. Good choices quickly become good habits, and before you know it, you'll be surprised by what you've achieved. So, the challenge for this week is set. You'll be presented with lots of opportunities to make choices. Choose well, regardless of how challenging the circumstances might seem. Have a fantastic week, an even better holiday, and I'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.